At 91, Sophia Loren finally speaks up. About George Peppard. Sophia von Loren, born on September 20, 1934, in Rome, Italy. Sophia Loren grew up in the port town of Padì near Naples. Her early life was marked by the trials of World War II air raids and scarcity of food. These did not deter her striking beauty and indomitable spirit. However, she often dreamed beyond her surroundings, a life far from the shadows of post-war Italy. This would later form the bedrock for her remarkable journey to stardom. Her road to stardom really began when, at the age of 15, she entered a local beauty contest and was discovered by film producer Carlo Ponti. Ponti was immediately struck not only by her beauty, but also by the intelligence, warmth, and charisma that shone through. He took her under his wing and helped her start with small parts in films. Gradually, she grew into a confident and captivating screen presence. Soon after, their artistic relationship turned into romance. In spite of all legal and social barriers, they finally married and remained devoted to each other until Ponti's death in 2007. Loren's ascent to international stardom was meteoric. Throughout the 1950s, she acted in Italian films like Ada, 1953, and The Gold of Naples, 1954, surprising audiences everywhere with raw talent and emotional performance. Her ability to convey deep feeling through her expressions distinguished her from her contemporaries. She headed to Hollywood to act with such legends as Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, Clark Gable, and Marcello Mastroianni. That landmark performance came in 1961 with Two Women, directed by Vittorio De Sica, which won her the Academy Award for Best Actress. She became the first actor to win an Oscar for a foreign language performance, playing a mother protecting her daughter during wartime in a performance whose emotional intensity transcended language. During the 1960s and 1970s, Loren continued to burnish her credentials in both European and American cinema, lending her luminous presence to films including Marriage Italian Style, Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow, Arabesque, and The Millionaires. And her on-screen partnerships with Mastroianni attained the status of cinematic legend. Romeo and Juliet-like dalliances, bursting with humor and tenderness, underpinned by a deep affection between these longtime friends. Even in later years, Loren was a force to be reckoned with on screen. Films like 9 in 2009 and The Life Ahead in 2020 showed that her talent and depth with emotion remained sharp. In The Life Ahead, directed by her son Eduardo Ponti, she gave a touching performance as Madame Rosa, a Holocaust survivor taking care of orphan children, showing that one of her lifelong talents was to represent strength through vulnerability. News of Loren's serious fall at her Switzerland home shocked fans around the world in September 2023. She suffered numerous fractures and had to undergo emergency surgery, a sobering realization that even those icons who may appear indestructible are still human. The life and career of Sophia Loren are deeply intertwined with Carlo Ponti. Their love story, which started when Loren was 15 and Ponti was 22 years her senior, was filled with passion, collaboration, and defiance against convention. Ponti guided her through the early stages of her career, helping to mold her from a shy teenager into a poised, glamorous actress whose talent and presence would captivate the world for decades. What started between Sophia Loren and Carlo Ponti as a professional relationship soon grew into something much deeper, an emotional bond based on mutual admiration, shared dreams, and real love. Their path to marriage, however, was not easy. At the time, Ponti was still legally married to his first wife, Giuliana Fiasri, and Italy's strict divorce laws made it almost impossible to get a legal separation without facing social, moral, and religious condemnation. Despite such obstacles, their love for each other only grew stronger. In 1957, Sophia and Carlo had a proxy marriage in Mexico, where lawyers stood in their place during the marriage ceremony. This unusual move raised a furor in Italy, which refused to recognize the marriage. The marriage was finally annulled in 1962 to avoid bigamy charges, but this annulment did not make the two part ways. If anything, their determination to be together despite societal and religious pressures had grown even stronger, proving that their love would thrive on adversity. Finally, in 1966, after many years of complicated law procedures and personal barriers, Carlo Ponti received French citizenship, which enabled him to divorce his first wife and legally marry Sophia Loren in Paris. This second marriage marked the real beginning of a lifelong companionship that bonded them together both as husband and wife and as creative collaborators. Carlo produced a number of Sophia's most highly acclaimed films, including Two Women 1960, for which she won the Academy Award for Best Actress, and Marriage Italian Style 1964, both directed by Vittorio De Sica. Together, they built an artistic empire that became synonymous with Italian elegance and sophistication on the world stage. Together, they were married for over 40 years in a union that contained loyalty, mutual respect, and shared destiny. Theirs was one of the few Hollywood marriages that did not break under the pressures of glamour and fame. They had two sons, Carlo Jr., who would become an orchestra conductor, and Eduardo, who became a film director. Both sons creatively followed in their parents' footsteps. Sophia often referred to Carlo as her great love, crediting him for believing in her when few others did, for giving her confidence, and for shaping her into both a world-class actress and a woman of depth and dignity. Carlo Ponti died in 2007, leaving a great void in Sophia's life, but she has continued to speak about him in glowing terms, as guiding her through most of her greatest achievements. Even when years had passed, Sophia reflects upon their journey, remembering their laughter, shared dreams, and quiet strength. Theirs would remain a timeless example of love prevailing against all odds, a partnership not just forged in passion, but in deep and abiding understanding, artistic synergy, and unshakable commitment. At 91, Sophia Loren is one of the last living legends from Hollywood's golden age, an enduring symbol of beauty, intelligence, and emotional depth. Indeed, throughout her stellar career, Loren shared the screen with many of the greatest leading men of her generation, but one name she has seldom mentioned publicly is that of George Peppard. Only now, later in her years, does she feel comfortable opening up about their time together, revealing both admiration and the challenges of working with such a complex and fascinating man. George was a mystery to me. Loren begins softly. He was handsome, talented, but there was something behind his eyes, something troubled, something that wanted to prove itself at every moment. Loren recalled the first time she met Peppard in the early 1960s. Each was at the height of their careers. She was already an international star, known for her luminous performances in Two Women, El Cid and Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow. Peppard, meanwhile, had just recently achieved breakout success in Breakfast at Tiffany's, establishing himself as one of Hollywood's most promising new leading men. "We met at a dinner in Los Angeles," she remembered. He was quiet at first, almost distant, but when he spoke, his voice carried great authority. I could see he was a man who had fought hard to be taken seriously. Loren described Peppard as exuding an old-fashioned kind of masculinity that was as attractive as it was intimidating at times. Their interactions were marked by mutual respect, curiosity, and the subtle tensions of two strong personalities navigating the pressures of fame and artistic ambition. "The thing is, he could be charming," Sophia Loren said, "but he also carried a certain pride and armor that made it difficult to know him deeply." There was both respect and tension in their professional relationship. George Peppard was serious about his craft. Every line and gesture had to be perfect. Loren described this intensity as something that could be beautiful, but also exhausting. He would sometimes get frustrated when things didn't go his way, and I would just look at him and smile. I told him, "George, life is not a battlefield." He laughed, but I don't think he ever fully believed it, she recalled. Her laughter at the memory was tinged with melancholy, remembering a man who never quite found peace with himself. Loren spoke candidly about Peppard's reputation in Hollywood, his perfectionism, stubbornness, and sometimes difficult personality. He had a fire inside him, she said, and that fire burned bright, but it also burned him. She recalled how conflicts with studios and co-stars finally cost him opportunities that might have elevated his career even further. He didn't always play the Hollywood game, she admitted. Peppard wanted to be respected as an artist, not just admired for his looks. Loren admired that, But she acknowledged that in the industry, sometimes compromise is necessary, and Peppard never wanted to bend. Despite that, Loren's tone was affectionate, not critical. She spoke of a kindness in him that people didn't always see. Between takes, he could be gentle, enjoying conversations about books, politics, and the human condition. He was not superficial. He had a mind that was always searching and questioning. Sometimes I think he was too intelligent for the world he found himself in, Loren reflected. Hollywood is a place that rewards charm more than thought. George had both, but he was never comfortable with the illusion of it all. As Loren reflected on Peppard's later years, she became visibly emotional. "It made me so sad to see how the industry turned its back on him," she said. She felt he deserved better, adding that at one time he had the potential to be one of the greats like Brando or Newman. But fate had other plans. Loren also related that Peppard's struggles with alcohol and personal demons seemed to stem from that same restless energy which once made him so magnetic on screen. He wanted truth in everything, she said, but truth can be painful, and he carried that pain inside him. Asked what she would say to George Peppard today, were he alive, Loren smiled wistfully. "I would tell him that he was wonderful," she said, "that he didn't have to fight so hard, that his talent was enough." After a very long pause, she said softly, he was a good man, even when he didn't believe it himself. Loren's reflections offer a rare glimpse into the humanity of two icons shaped by the same unforgiving world. Her words, so full of wisdom and compassion, reveal not only her respect for Peppard as an artist, but also her understanding of the fragility that lay beneath his strength. "We came from different worlds," she concluded, "but I always understood him. Beneath the pride, beneath the struggle, there was a man who simply wanted to be loved."